Hi everybody, it's Grandad here again, and I'm going to do a little video for you today. Now, I've been trying to do this video for quite some time, but it's been giving me all sorts of trouble, and it's been hanging around such a long time. But it's quite an important, what I think considered to be an important little bit of information. I mean, you may know all about it, but it's new to me, of very great interest. And what it concerns is magnetism. Now, everybody said, oh, I know about magnetism. That's those things you stick on fridges and do with magnets and picking up bits of metal and doing things like that. But magnetism is far more important than what you might imagine. In fact, it's so important that I wanted to draw your attention to a video that's out there on YouTube. And it's a video, and it lasts quite some time. It's a 50-minute video, but it's well worth a look because it tells you all about what really is, and it's called What Really Is Magnetism. And it's a documentary on the science of magnetism, a full documentary. Now, as I say, it's quite a long video, but it's well worth a look because unbelievably, I mean, magnetism has been around an awful long time. And people have known about it, but of course they didn't know how to use it back in the day very much. And people have used it. But magnetism affects every living thing on this planet, as you'll see by looking at that documentary. Every living creature on this planet, including humans and bacteria and pigeons and lobsters and all sorts of creatures, rely on magnetism for guidance and to find their food. And the Earth itself, strangely enough, is a huge magnet, which is incredible. I mean, the sun is our power of energy, and we get a lot of good things from the sun, warmth and energy and so like. But there's also dangerous things that comes from the sun. And if that energy from the sun was able to reach the Earth, we'd all be dead. We just wouldn't be alive. There wouldn't be any life on Earth at all. It'd be totally barren because the cosmic rays would damage everything on Earth and kill it. But because we've got this magnetic field, which works somehow with the iron core of the Earth, I don't know quite how it works, but there's an iron core in the Earth, and it's turned the Earth, the whole Earth, into a huge magnet. And there's magnetic bands, invisible rays, if you like, of energy, of magnetism, taking the solar wind or the solar rays that come from the sun away and protecting the Earth. Now, that's fascinating, and as I say, if that documentary explains it far better than ever I can, and it tells you all about the different creatures and how they use the magnetism in the Earth, in their bodies and cells, to guide them around and do all sorts of things. And it's a fascinating thing, and I think everybody ought to watch that because it's fascinating. Now, as I say, magnetism has been around a long time. Now, on the Earth, there are minerals, and you know I'm interested in rocks. And I've got a whole bag of rocks here. Now, this is what they call magnetite. Now, magnetite, not all magnetite is magnetic. Some magnetite isn't. But this particular bit I've got here, which they call magnetite lodestone. They call it lodestone. And it's magnetic. Now, the magnetic properties of this particular bit of stone I've got here aren't very good. I mean, it will pick up a very light pin. And obviously bits of metal and iron filings and things, but that's not very easy to show. So what I thought I'd do, I've got 3 pieces on here of this magnetite, and it's just a rock, and if I put a piece of paper on top of it, just a flat piece of paper, and I sprinkle iron filings, which I've got in this test tube, over the top of this magnetite, it'll hopefully, just a little bit like that, sprinkle it over, and then just use a little pencil here, just to tap. If I can do this, just to tap it a little bit. It's not working terribly well. This screwdriver's magnetic, so I've got to be careful. Oh, I've damaged one of my other things now. But if you look at that, now I try to show you this. It's not going to be terribly good, but if I bring the camera over, you can see that there's those iron filings are sort of dancing around a bit on that magnetite, that lodestone. And if I just get That one's a bit of a big lump. I don't know why that's a big lump. Anyway, let's just do that again. Those are two flatter pieces. And just tap that again. I got that too thick. Let me just tap it with this, see if that'll work. Well, that's not going to work terribly well for me. But anyway, I'm sure you saw that. So that's a way of showing that these rocks are magnetic. Now, that was known by ancient peoples many, many hundreds of years ago. The Vikings apparently used little bits of lodestone, which they'd got, and they somehow got it very thin, and they floated it on oil or water or something, some similar substance to that, and they managed to make what they call a compass. Now, compasses obviously work with magnets, and it would point north, and they used it for guidance, and that's very interesting. So there's a rock that's magnetic, and they call it lodestone. Now, when I was a child at school, and I went to my first science classes, they showed us. I wasn't very clever. I'm not a very clever person, as you know, but I went to school and I was fascinated by magnetism. They showed a demonstration, and I've got here a demonstration of two magnets, two round magnets, and a just now. Normally, if you put magnets together, they stick, but if you put them opposing, they push each other apart. Now, they showed us in this science lesson how you could get two magnets and put them together, and they would actually have an invisible force between them. So that's that invisible force that protects us from the sun in operation. It's that invisible now force, which is magnetism. Now on here I've got 4 more ring magnets, and as you can see, they're dancing about, but they won't go together. Now if I turned them over, they would all stick together. So you've just got to take my word for it. I'll demonstrate it in a minute. But there they are, acting almost like a spring, with this magnetic force between them, pushing them apart. Now, when I was at school, that fascinated me, and I thought that's very interesting. I can't believe it. But there you go. Now, if I turn them over, they'll snap together because they're attracted to each other, and all 4 magnets will stick. But the other way around, they won't. Now, that's interesting. Now, obviously, when you get messing around with magnets, sooner or later, you're going to come up with what they call electricity. And electricity and magnets. In fact, I'll show you another little magnet here, just for fun. This is, in here is a funny little gadget that I bought. It's a little, what do they call these? Egg timer type thing, which is a scientific thing. And in here there's a magnet. And if you put the little stuff on top of this magnet and pour it through, you can see, if I bring that in, hopefully, a little bit closer, you can see that as that little bit of sand goes down onto that magnet, it creates the field, and you can see the magnetic field of that iron filings going down onto that magnet. And I thought that was fascinating, so I bought it because it's a little scientific little bit of thing. It's only a little toy, I suppose, but it shows magnetism, and that's interesting. And of course, if I take it away, it all disappears. And when I put it back, there it is, it builds up. And that's fascinating. And I'm quite interested in that. So I thought that was rather good. Now, another thing, as I've got here, which I'll show you, which is a little toy. And it's only a toy, this. But this is a funny little creature which I bought in a shop. And it's a magnet, piece of magnet, probably magnetite, lodestone inside there. And it's got a funny little creature in there, and all his hair is sticking up because he's got iron filings sticking up on the magnetic field. And if you put this this other magnet on top, which they gave you, and wriggle it about, his hair moves about. And I thought that was another fascinating little toy to amuse children with the using magnets. So that's another little thing. Now, as I say, you get onto electricity. Now, electricity is fascinating. Now, for a long time, electricity wasn't even known of. And another way of producing magnets is with electricity. And I'll demonstrate that now as a magnet. what I've got here is a little steel rod and a coil of copper wire. It's just insulated copper wire going round, and I've got a couple of hairpins here, little paper clips, and if I touch them towards this little metal bar, nothing happens. There's no magnetism there. But if I get a bit of current, and I've got a little battery here, a little 9-volt battery, and if I connect it to this little bit of copper wire I got here, and then put my pins, you'll see they attract, and quite strongly. So that's showing how electricity from a battery through a bit of metal bar will produce a magnet. And these magnets are fascinating because you can use these magnets for all sorts of things, which I'm going to demonstrate, hopefully, if they work, how you can produce things with electricity and magnets. Now, I won't get that going too long because that 9-volt battery will probably get that coil bright hot. So I'll just put that on one side. So you can produce, that's got really hot. I knew I shouldn't have touched it. It got really hot. Now, batteries we're going to get onto. Now, there was a chap by the name of, what was his name? Alexandro Volta. And I think he was a Frenchman, I'm not sure. But he was working with things, and he discovered that if he put, I think he did it actually in his mouth, which is rather unusual. He put pieces of metal in his mouth, different kinds of metals, and silver and copper and different things, and he put them on his tongue. And he noticed that when he put it on his tongue and connected these bits of metal together, he got a tingling. And he thought, that's funny, I wonder what that is. And this is now long before they invented electricity. And he thought, that's strange. So he did some experimenting. And what he did, I've got a penny here, just a copper penny, and I've got a little bit of metal here, just to act as a connector. It doesn't really have any bearing on what's going on. But if I put this copper penny on top of this metal, and I get out of my little dish here, because obviously he realized that salt on his tongue was having a beneficial effect. Now, if I get a little bit of tissue paper out of here and I put it on top of this copper penny, and then I put a zinc washer, just an ordinary zinc washer, and it isn't even very clean now. Now, you've got to keep things clean. I've discovered that some of my things don't work because I don't clean them enough, but this seems to work even though it's a bit dirty. And if you put the zinc on top of that copper, and what I've got here is a little voltmeter, and I'm hoping you can see this. I don't know whether you can, but I'm going to turn that voltmeter towards you, and I'm hoping you can see that if I now put this voltmeter, have I got it turned? No, I haven't got it turned on to volts. Turn that round to volts. Now I'm hoping you can see that, just in the corner of the screen there. If I put that voltmeter there and put the electrodes across, you can see that that's reading 8 volts, or 8 somethings. It goes to 0, put it on, and it goes to 8. I don't know whether it's around the right way. Anyway, or 5 to 8. Now that's amazing. I'm getting a current just from those 3 little things. Now Volta discovered that if you put another penny on top of that, and another bit of paper, which I'm going to do, and it's just a bit of paper with salt water, bit of blotting paper and salt water, and then put another washer on top of that and try it, you get an increase. Oh, let's put that on there now. Now I'm getting, I don't know, it's jumping about 5 point something, it's jumping about, but it's certainly gone up. Now, of course, he was very excited when he discovered that, so he decided to increase the amount of copper and things that he got. So what I've got here now is, I don't know, about 20 of these little pennies and paper and zinc just on here. And if I test this now, you'll see that the voltage has shot up. Now I'm hoping I got it in camera on this thing here, but it's shot up now to I can't quite see what it is there. I've got to turn that round just to see, so I can tell you what it is, even if you can't see it. But that's shot up to 8.59 volts. Now that's incredible. Now, he didn't know what it was. He didn't call it a battery because batteries hadn't been invented. But what he'd invented there was a battery. Now, he called it a voltaic pile. And for a long time, they referred to it as Volta's pile. Now, this got obviously people interested. And there were some very interesting people and that got interested in this. And one of them was I've got some more people here turning over the wrong pages, I think. Oh dear. Oh dear. I've got it a little bit wrong here. Anyway, I know who it was. I'll go on to tell you who it was. It was a very clever fellow by the name of I think Humphrey Davy got involved in it, and he did all sorts of things. Now Humphrey Davy got involved in a great many things. Now Humphrey Davy was a great man and great scientist, but Humphrey Davy, actually, the interesting thing about Humphrey Davy, he was interested in gases, and he'd been working with gases, and at the time gases were and they didn't quite know what to do with gases and different things, and they experimented. I mean, scientists, strange, they were into, not exactly drugs, I suppose, but they experimented with different types of gases, and he invented a gas, nitric oxide. Now, nitric oxide is very interesting. They call it laughing gas, and I think it was Humphrey Davy, who I think, I hope I've got the wrong person, I'm sorry, but I think it was Humphrey Davy that was messing around with gases and nitric oxide, and he discovered that they made him very jolly, and that's what made him laugh and giggle, and that's very interesting. If you look up Faraday, Humphrey Davy's greatest failure was the fact that he didn't, one day when he was trying this laughing gas, he discovered that he got a toothache, and he discovered that while he's got this gas in him, he couldn't feel his toothache. So what he'd done, actually, he invented anaesthetic, but he didn't realise it. And that was one of his greatest errors, that he didn't pursue that situation where laughing gas was acting as an anaesthetic on his tooth and getting rid of the pain, because it took another 40 years before they discovered the anaesthetic using other things, because people were suffering with having amputations and things and terrible pain. And they thought they needed the pain to get better, but obviously they didn't. And this is a bit of a myth. And nitric oxide is used by dentists and people for a long time for pulling teeth out as a great pain reliever. And so that was interesting. But anyway, getting back to my other little experiment with a fellow by the name of Humphrey, no, not Humphrey Davy. What was it? Michael Faraday. He started working with electricity, using the Volta pile as a battery, and he started experimenting with electricity and things. Now, Michael Faraday was a great inventor. Now, he invented a thing he discovered, and I've got a little setup here, and I can't get it to work, which is a little bit disappointing. I've tried and tried, and for some reason I can't get this to work, which is a dreadful shame. But what he did, I got this little gadget here, and what it is, if I can show you, is a little salt dish, and I haven't got the magnets in there at the moment, but you put a magnet in the middle of there, and a little electric wire coming across that dangles around. Now, it could be that this is too dirty and it's not working right for me, and I may experiment again, but I've tried and tried this and I can't get it to work. But a lot of people do, and so I know it works. And obviously, if you try it, make sure you clean everything really well, get some sandpaper and clean everything, and you may have more luck than me, and if you know why mine's not working. But what it consists of is a salt water dish with a magnet in the middle, which I haven't got, but because I've got it working on something else. A little magnet in the middle, and you connect a battery through with this little terminal on the side here, and this wire going through, and it revolves around the magnet, and it goes round and round. So what Michael Faraday had invented, I mean, he didn't realise it at the time, but what he'd actually invented was an electric motor, which is strange. And he went on to develop different ways of making electric motors. So, and now I'm going to go on and show you. Again, I've been trying different things, and some things work and some things don't. And that's the thing with science. You've got to experiment a little bit. You never know whether things are going to work. Now, I've got another little experiment going on here, which I'll show you. And this concerns magnetism and electricity. And what I've got here is some little washer with some neodymium magnets dangling from it. And what I've got here is a little bit of wire. Now, I discovered the reason that this wasn't working for me was because it was dirty. You've got to keep everything really clean. Scrape it off with sandpaper and make sure it's working. Now, if I put this little wire, now this is what is called a monopolar motor. And if I put this little bit of equipment on here, hopefully, there we go, thank goodness, it's actually working for me, and it's spinning. And you can see that little magnet there. If I tip it down a little bit so you can see, so you don't want to see me, but you want to see that little, oh, it's gone round so fast, it's spun and gone off. Now, it's a bit tricky to do, but it does work. And it's spinning around there quite nicely. So I created a little bit similar way to Michael Faraday's electric motor, spinning a little bit of copper wire around a magnet using electricity. And that's a monopolar motor. Now, you can make these in all sorts of designs. I've got another design here that's slightly different. Now, this one I don't think actually works, which is a bit difficult. And it's not working for me. I'll just put it on and try it. Oh, no, it is. It's going round. There we go. And that one's working as well. So I've obviously cleaned that off, and that's spinning really fast. So that's another monopolar motor working on electricity, discovered by Volta, making his battery, and Michael Edison with his electric motor business. And that's very interesting. Now, another little motor I've got here, which I managed to get working, which is another way of doing it, is with a couple of paper clips and a magnet. I got some neodymium magnets on this little washer here, and if I put them between these two paper clips, now I got another design here, which is a little coil of wire, spun around a battery, and again you've got to get these clean and make sure you get all the bits and pieces off it. And if I dangle that between those two poles and get my battery back in, and I connect these up, this is a 9-volt battery. If I bring that in, and hopefully, if I can get it to work, it should work. Oh, that's getting really hot. I've obviously got a little bit too much power there, I don't know. Let's just disconnect that for a second. That's getting really hot. Let's try a little slightly lower voltage. That's a 9-volt battery I've got there. Now this worked for me, so I'm hoping it's going to work. Now this is a little bit less current. Oh dear. Now obviously I'm not getting my connections right here, which is a little bit of a nuisance. And if you try it, make sure you get your connections right. And that was getting a bit too hot with a 9-volt battery, so I'm trying with a slightly lesser voltage in the hope that this will work. But if I can get this right, and for some reason, now I've had this working, so I know it does work. And it could be that I've not got things clean, or I don't know, something not quite right there. Let's just try. I'll try again with this 9-volt battery. It's a little bit high, this 9-volt battery, and it gets things hot, which is a bit of a nuisance. But I'll just try, just in case. Oh, there it goes. Oh, there it goes. It wasn't working there for a second. There it is. It's working there now. It's a little bit tricky, but if you get it right, and I'm glad I've proved that it does work, you've just got to fiddle with things. And if you get it right and things are working and everything's clean, obviously there's a little bit of dirt there somewhere. There it goes. And it is trying, but there we go. It is working. So that's another little motor, that's working there, working on electricity and magnets, and it's spinning away quite nicely there now. There we go. I'm glad that's working. I hope you can see it in my little camera there. Just tip the camera down a little bit, which isn't. But these things will work, providing you fiddle with them and get them working right. But it's usually just because you haven't got something just right, because they do work. But if there's dirt on it, or things aren't quite right, they won't work. But if you can get them just spinning just right, and obviously it's trying, it's kicking about, and it is working. And sometimes it goes really fast when it's trying, but for some reason I just haven't got it in the right place to work. So that's worked. So I'm glad about that. But it's just a little video which I wanted to do, and I've been wanting to do it for a long time, and I'm sorry that it didn't work absolutely perfect. But what I want you to do is to check out that magnetism video. As I say, it's a long video, but it tells you about magnetism. It's fascinating how it affects the Earth, and how electricity came through with all these interesting characters, Volta and Edison and Michael Faraday and Humphrey Davy. So I hope you found that of interest. Now, I'll end this little video here now. And if you found it interesting, which I hope you did, subscribe to my videos, and we'll do a little bit more science and different things. Things didn't work out quite as well as they ought to. And if you like this video, put a like on it. You may not like it because obviously things didn't work, which is a little bit difficult. But it's my fault that things didn't work. It's not that they don't work, it's just me. But anyway, this is Grandad signing off as usual and saying, hope you enjoyed this video. And until I meet again with something else interesting, which I hopefully working on, I'll say in my usual way, bye-bye now. Bye-bye.